Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Making Meaning. My name is Jackie Levine, and I'm the coordinator for School Leadership and Marketing Services for PNW BOCES. Making Meaning is a show by educators for educators to discuss the conversations that education is having right now. And with me today is Dr. Margaret Podesta, principal of the Putnam Valley Elementary School. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so excited to talk to you and get to know a little bit about you. But first, one thing we always like to do on the show is to just kind of ask, how are you? How are you, your family, and your community right now?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing well. I'm staying busy kind of in between the school building and home, working from home, doing lots of Zoom meetings, keeping in touch with our teachers and our administrators. My family's doing well, thank goodness. We've been healthy. We've had lots of wonderful time together. We now have a beautiful campfire routine at night, and the pool is open. So we're very grateful that we've had this time together, notwithstanding all of the sickness and suffering that's been going on, because we really need that to end, and we do need to get back to our normal lives and our workplaces. But there have been some gifts for us, because I have children who are in their late teens and early 20s, and normally they're running all around, and we've had a lot of time with mom and dad.
That's really wonderful. And it's true. Two things can be true. You can feel sorrow or sadness for what's happening in the greater country and some of the issues our country's facing right now, beyond the pandemic, but also in our issues with racism. But you can also be grateful for the time some kind of situation could give you with your family and other things that come out of it. Sometimes we have great lessons that come out of it.
Yes, and we've learned so much in the past few months just about technology, distance learning, all that we can do to access our students' learning needs online and virtually. But we've also, as a district, begun to do great talks and conversations about the work with racism and bias. And we've always done work, but this gives us a jump start into deeper work and more with community involvement. So that has a full force effort right now.
That's wonderful. Putnam Valley is always ahead of the curve. I'm so proud to be a resident of the district as well as a partner at PNW BOCES. So I'm always delighted, especially to visit the Putnam Valley Elementary School. You do so much great work there with your teachers, and you have an amazing faculty. I've had the pleasure to work with them when I was in my capacity as the literacy coordinator just a short while ago. But I've always admired your communication style, your relationships that you've built with your teachers, and also your leadership. And I know a little bit about your history, but I wanted our viewers to learn a little bit about your story and how you not only came to education, but then later to leadership.
Oh, well, I always loved school, and I loved playing school. And with my 5 siblings, we just had parents who valued education. I wasn't sure going through high school what I would major in college, but after starting as an undecided major, I said, what am I waiting for? I want to be a teacher. So once I made that decision, I never looked back. I was lucky enough, my family had moved down to the Westchester area from way up near Canada, where I grew up, and I was lucky enough to get a job in Briarcliff first, covering a full year leave position, teaching 3rd grade. And I was a happy 23-year-old, very happy, loving my new career and loving just connecting with children and their parents. And that was a lead position. So then I went to Hendrick Hudson, where I was an employee for over 20 years, teaching all levels of elementary school. And then an administrator. Through the years, people said, maybe you want to think about administration. And I was busy having my 4 kids and, loving my teaching life, and actually my maternity leaves as well. But it was when the FSLA program option came to me through Bank Street and BOCES and Renee Gargano and Joan Thompson, and it was just a life changer. And Dr. Alice Gottlieb said, Margaret, you're doing this. So off I went, and then became the middle school principal for Blue Mountain Middle School, assistant principal for Blue Mountain Middle School for 2 years. And the Putnam Valley position for elementary principal opened up, and I'm completing my 7th year there already. And I love the community. I absolutely love my job and all of the aspects of it. And I get to meet so many people and work with 4-year-olds and work with 84-year-olds, and I learn from all of them. So it's a very dynamic position. It's hard work, especially right now, trying to figure everything out, even for the end of the year, and not knowing what September will bring. But I have wonderful colleagues in this area, the Westchester Putnam area. The elementary principals group is a fantastic group of people who care so much about education, who are true learners. So that collegiality really builds my own learning, but also, what I can bring to my job.
That's wonderful. And yes, I know that as a student of FSLA, we're especially proud to continue to partner with you and work in many ways. The FSLA program has certainly graduated a lot of wonderful leaders, and you are one of them, among them. And it's always our pleasure to continue to bring opportunities to our leaders like yourself to continue to connect with like-rolled other leaders in forums like the Elementary Principal Forum. And I think it's also very interesting that you have that perspective of the elementary and the middle. So I'd love to hear your perspective on the differences between those two levels and the very unique nature of the elementary principal, because it is very unique in the situations and crises you may deal with as opposed to your secondary colleagues.
Yes, it really is. And when I went to be the AP at the middle school, I really felt like, wow, this is a different planet in education. And you're talking about the daily schedule. You're talking about how teams of teachers work together, what the discipline looks like, what the class community building looks like. So I had a lot to learn, and I had a wonderful mentor there. The principal, John Owens, is amazing in every way. And we just learned together and worked together. And he used to say to me, you are bringing me that elementary view of that child-centered view to a lunchroom situation or a science classroom. And so that was a great dynamic because they do mesh, the two. We're talking about children, and what I know from my own children and from being the assistant principal, those middle school years are tender years, and boy, those kids need love and guidance even more so, just because of their bodies are changing, their relationships are changing, and they're trying out some independence. And it's a very tender age, and it's a time now when a lot of anxiety comes in, a lot of insecurities come in, and we have social media feeding into all of that. So that was a great experience for me. It really was. And just dealing with parents of older children and talking to them about their child who's starting to talk about high school and, joining sports teams and things that we don't do at the elementary level. But the elementary principal is what I really have studied, and we'll talk about my doctoral work, which I just finished through Manhattanville College. Thank you. And that was another wonderful experience, in coordination with BOCES again. And the work that BOCES has brought to my life it's endless, but as far as just wonderful opportunities. But Manhattanville offers the wonderful doctoral program, and I was able to study the professional development of elementary principals and how that really needed a good look at, and just opportunities for elementary principals to express themselves of what would work for them.
That's great. And yes, I am so thrilled to discuss the idea of a CEL scholar with you. CEL is our Center for Educational Leadership acronym, and you are the epitome of a CEL scholar, not only an FSLA graduate, but also a successful doctoral student of the Manhattanville program you've defended. And that was recent, I believe. I think it was just 2 months ago now.
That's the end of April, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it was virtual. That was a new experience, I'm sure, for you, not something you always anticipated when defending your dissertation.
No, not at all. And I'm just so grateful that they let the defenses continue, because we were all in our homes, but it happened and we were all there. Dr. Lynn Allen was on my committee, of course my advisor, Dr. Joanne Marion, and Dr. Ken Mitchell, who we all know and respect so much.
Yes, so much. Thank you. That's wonderful. And I love that your work centered on the elementary principal, because it is this group of folks, and I believe this came out from your study, sometimes can feel like the role is very isolating. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit more on that based on what you've learned?
Yeah, the elementary principal role, as you said, is unique because we are dealing with, a 4-year-old on your lap upset about something at recess, or missing mom, or we're talking to board members or the New York State Commissioner who came to visit our school one year. So it's unique in how many different conversations you can have throughout a day, sometimes within 5 minutes of each other. And so when I looked at the elementary principals and what we needed as far as professional development and support in our own roles, there was a true gap in literature. And the literature really didn't show that all of that professional development that we value so much for teachers, and the collaboration that we value and we know works with teachers and building that social capital through social cultural theory, it just wasn't in place. The research really was very minimal for elementary principals. And so when I looked into this interview study, and I was able to interview 15 elementary principals in the Hudson Valley region, one surprise that really came out from this study that I wasn't looking for was the word isolation, and along with that, loneliness. And why is that elementary principal's role really a lonely role at times, or a role where an administrator with people all around you, children, adults all around you, how could that possibly be isolating? But it is. You're usually the one leader in the school, or many of us do have assistant principals. You're making staff decisions, scheduling decisions, budget decisions. You're often making discipline decisions, curriculum decisions with your teachers. And although you have other colleagues at the middle school and high school level, you are in that elementary world and that building. And the word isolation came up in 15 interviews. Can you believe that?
Wow, that is hard to believe, but very telling that our elementary principals more than ever need more connection and more opportunities to learn with and beside each other, and ways to grow, but with colleagues. So that's your contribution to the research is really important, and to the conversation. And that was one of the reasons why we are collaborating to actually bring more professional learning to elementary principals, by also finding out exactly what they are looking for. And do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the things we have in motion in collaboration with you going forward?
Yes, I'm very excited about a possible retreat where we can begin to really get the input from elementary principals, because that came out of our study, that elementary principals need that autonomy. They need that expression of what they need to learn about. And it's interesting because this dissertation was given a couple of months ago, and the world has changed since then. So now we're talking about distance learning and virtual learning and education on diversity and racism that has been brought to a new and important level. And so the world does keep changing. So this input from elementary principals, especially as we're focusing on them, we need to continue to get that input. And so we've talked about improving and actually increasing the number of learning opportunities for elementary principals that are focused on the elementary principal role and the job of the expanding role of the elementary principal, which was a big focus of my research. How much that role has changed in the past 5 to 7 years. It's nothing like it was even 10 years ago. And what we found, and what I found, and worked very closely with my advisor because she was such a support in this learning, elementary principals want to collaborate. They definitely have areas that stand out for need, which is curriculum and instruction, leading and management, and another area which maybe wasn't in place maybe 10 to 15 years ago, social emotional wellness for children, and that really came out. When you ask principals about their professional development experiences, they very often talked about the regulations, so school safety, lead evaluator training, and things that we are required to do but aren't always effective as far as use of our time. And that leads us to the next big word, time. There's not enough time. So all teachers will tell you there's not enough time. Elementary principals in our area, we definitely have the support, and usually without question the financial support to grab professional development, say we're going to attend and register for professional development opportunities. But getting out of the building can be impossible for an elementary principal. And I have so many quotes from the interviews that say, the sky is always falling. I feel intravenously connected to my building. I think I'm walking out. I have my jacket on, heading to a meeting, and somebody walks in and I can't leave. So these real limits to quality professional development are there. It's common that it's there. And so I found that the prioritization of elementary principal learning needs to be increased so that it's a priority not only for the elementary principal himself or herself, but also the district, BOCES, and even the state, making, we have ideas that could make it more of a priority at all levels.
That's really very important, Margaret, and it makes me think too about something that you had said in an earlier conversation as we were planning some of our work together about also what the principal has to prioritize in their role. And you painted a picture perfectly for me, and I hope it's okay that I just share it here, of having that second grader sitting on your lap crying. You're not going anywhere.
You're not leaving.
That's your priority.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to help that teacher continue on with their class, that child needs that comfort, and you're there for that child. And that's something I think also unique to all educators, is especially leaders. We're servants in a way, but we're servants first to the children, and we aren't going anywhere if those things are happening. So it's it's hard. As much support as you may have, either financially or other, it's still hard to pull away from the building when those kinds of things are occurring.
Right. And you may have been waiting for one parent that you'd really like to talk to in person to walk in all day, and right when you're leaving, oh, the parent's here. Well, you're not going to miss that opportunity either. But we did come up with some, real suggestions that might be helpful, and some of them with the district priority, of course, the scheduling of learning and conversations with critical friends, talking about real life problems, both in district, but also scheduling them across districts so that superintendents are aware of this challenge that we have for professional development for principals, but setting it up so that the managerial items can be done through email. But the administrative meetings are really focused on learning and growth, and maybe even across districts and within other school buildings. Another opportunity I thought would be successful is having a setup so that we have other administrators in the district. And of course, I work in a small district, but even within that small district, there could be 2 administrators or more in a building. And could we set up a schedule so that we can cover for each other? I have a wonderful assistant principal, but even if I walk out of the building, just knowing there's another administrator in the building to handle something that could come up. Suppose a child's having a really hard day or there's an emergency somewhere, we have that other administrator still doing their own job, but in the building. And the principal has to accept that help, right? So we have to make it a priority to make sure I'm going to accept my collegial help here so that I can go to this learning, and then my other colleagues, which is very important, my other elementary principal colleagues can count on me to attend. Because a big thing that came out from the elementary principals is they're taking their time, they're going to the meeting, and it could be virtual now, we know, but they're going to a meeting and they really want to know, are my colleagues going to be there? Because then it's that much more worthwhile with the collaboration and the learning and the sharing. And that came up as a big focus point, making sure that we have that commitment.
That's so great to point out, Margaret, as the commitment to learning from all levels, from our colleagues within our district to our colleagues beyond, and to even PNW BOCES, the commitment to shaping and providing the type of learning that is practical and applicable to our elementary principals and to all of our levels of principals, honestly, to make sure that we are offering what you need and how you need it. So I think that's a great point. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and something that goes along with that, along with the commitment and real needs, are so that it's relevant and it's practical and principals can take that learning back and it's really what they're looking for. And the title matches what they think they're looking for. The other piece that goes on with it is kind of an ongoing schedule. So although we are pressed for time as elementary principals, it's not just one and done. We can go in, we learn, we talk, we share, we debrief, we might even break up into focus groups, but then there's going to be another meeting next month, or 3 or 4 times throughout the year. We know we're checking back, and we have time to go back and process and practice, bring back our experiences, maybe even invite people to our school to observe things. But that ongoing schedule was very vocalized in the interviews, of not just one and done, but let's keep this going so it's an ongoing learning opportunity.
That's especially hits home with me in terms of my planning for the Center for Educational Leadership going forward, or thinking about those opportunities to build on learning over time as opposed to having a single standing date of a certain learning. So
Yeah.
great piece, and so much great learning to come out of your dissertation, Margaret. It's going to be so impactful, not only for the region, but beyond, as we continue to work toward better learning for our leaders at all levels in our in education, nationally, not just.
It's very exciting. And the success of the principal has a direct relationship to the success of the school. And so I don't want to just be facilitating meetings and have somebody else have all the knowledge. I need to have that knowledge myself, and I need to be able to motivate teachers and support teachers in their work. So me being left out of the professional development doesn't really work for an educational system, and I don't think it was intentional. I think that we just kind of take care of things, but now the research is really showing there's a need for this PD. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for your contributions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to all that we're going to do with BOCES, because I think we will all benefit.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited that we'll be unpacking your research a little bit more in a webinar coming up at the end of the month,
Yes.
on the 25th, to be able to really share exactly what your findings were. And hopefully some of our elementary colleagues, and maybe even more of our colleagues, our principal colleagues, could join us to hear about your findings and hear about the recommendations that you have. And then we'll go further at our elementary principal retreat this summer to continue those conversations and see what our elementary principals would like to learn going forward throughout the year in our monthly meetings, unless we have more frequent meetings. During this past couple of months, it's so interesting that you bring up the connection and support. Our elementary principal forum elected as a group to meet weekly on Fridays as opposed to once a month, because they recognize the need to be more regularly in touch with each other during this difficult time, to hear how folks were planning for reentry, what everyone was doing for remote learning, synchronous versus asynchronous conversations, grading, report cards. It seemed very important to have weekly conversations because decisions were being made daily, hourly sometimes. So I really think that the Elementary Principal Forum grew in its support, connection, and relationships this past couple of months. This pandemic really brought them together in a different way and created a lot of collegiality. And I just wonder, I got to hear a lot of perspective from a lot of the principals about their priorities going forward into next year. As an elementary principal yourself, looking ahead to the fall and reentry, what are some of your priorities that are at the top of your mind right now for thinking about your community moving forward?
Well, one major priority is knowing how we can support our children, first of all, emotionally in their transition back to a regular school day, and we're all keeping our fingers crossed that that's what we have. But also, there has been a loss of learning. Our teachers are doing an amazing job, and we really are keeping up with our curriculum, but it's not the same as face-to-face and in-school interaction. And so my biggest concern is knowing how to meet these children emotionally but academically, and helping them through that month of September. So a portion of our summer work with teachers will be kind of restructuring September and looking at those curriculum maps and thinking about, could we schedule a time when they come back the first day and kind of regroup with this year's teacher for a little bit, even if a half a day, a full day, and then go on to the next year to kind of give them that sense of closure. And then looking at the academic curriculum maps and thinking, how can we pace this so that we're not scaring children away? We want them to feel confident. We want them to feel that they are in good shape academically and we're excited about the work they've done, but then bringing them along. The whole nation's been affected by this timeline. We know that, and we're not unrealistic in the fact that some math learning needs some reinforcement in September and some reading levels are a little lower than they would have been. We know that. It's all going to be okay, but we're going to do our job to keep bringing them along. Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
I'm sure with you at the helm, it will be a very smooth and productive process. And I'm sure
yeah.
your teachers have a lot of trust and faith in your leadership. So as do I and many of other of your colleagues.
Thank you. And thank you for running those meetings throughout this distance learning time. And it really fits right in with the work that I found. The elementary principals, most of them former elementary teachers, want to be together. They want to work, they want to listen to other people talking, and they want to share ideas. And there's no point in all of us reinventing the wheel. There really isn't. You know, when we're sharing math resources and ELA curriculums, we want to hear about each other's experiences, and the same with distance learning. And all of that isolation goes out the window when we see that great group of people who are the elementary principals in this area. It's very exciting.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. While all of our districts have their unique communities and their unique needs and, necessary curricular work to do, I think it truly does take a village to tackle challenges that we've been presented with of late. And if we're not working together and if we're not hearing from each other, and, we could end up being inefficient in a lot of ways and reinventing wheels, or taking missteps somebody else prior to us might have taken that they could guide us on and give advice. So I agree with you, and I think it's been so great to have that forum come back together. I know it had been dormant for about a year or two. I know it met regularly once before, but it's revived and renewed and exciting, and looking ahead to some really exciting work that we'll be doing. And we'll be doing that with a lot of your help, as well as Kelly and Frank and Tracy, continuing to plan and grow the forum.
Yeah. All great people. And some of that collaboration is just informal sharing, but there's also a room for more structured collaboration, especially focusing on certain learning targets that we decide as a group are priorities for us. So, using protocols or book studies or focus groups or gallery walks, all of that helps us to reach our goal of what we need. So thank you for helping us with this, and thanks to Dr. Allen as well.
Absolutely. It's BOCES's pleasure to be able to support all of our leaders and all of our teachers and their goals and their connectedness to the region. But Margaret, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to discuss your research a little bit with us and be part of Making Meaning. And I also want to thank you for your great thinking in moving forward with giving professional learning a new light for elementary principals for the region. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And again, congratulations on your dissertation defense. It's an incredible accomplishment.
It's a great feeling.
I'm sure.
It really is.
That's kind of our parting question, Margaret. Now that you're done with your dissertation, what's the renewed thing that fills your pastime now that you're not writing and studying and reading and editing?
Okay, well, to be honest, we've been doing a lot of cleaning out.
Okay.
So when I'm not doing my schoolwork, we've been going through boxes and storage areas. And you know what? All of that was put on hold. And we have a big family and a house we've lived hard in. So it's been good work that needed to be done. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get some health and fitness in there this summer. That's what we're hoping.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Is there a particular type of exercise you like most, running or spinning?
Well, I used to be an aerobics teacher. I taught at Club Fit for years. Isn't that funny?
Really? Amazing.
Yeah, that's how I met my husband there. And he's still all in shape, and so are my kids. But, I've been writing. That's what I say. I've been writing for 4 years. But we just walk and swim, and the kids keep me going. So that'll be a little priority, and just staying healthy, we all hope,
That self-care piece is so important.
Yeah.
You can't help others unless you're taking good care of yourself. So it's very important. We as servant leaders often tend to put ourselves on the back burner. And it's that old oxygen mask, right? You have to put your mask on first before you can help others. So
it's true. And just stay calm and even keeled, all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jackie. That was so nice of you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. It's always a pleasure to speak with a great educational leader on our Making Meaning program. And I just want to thank you, and I want to thank all of our viewers today for tuning in to Making Meaning. Again, thank you to Dr. Margaret Podesta from Putnam Valley Elementary School, Putnam Valley School District, for being here with us and sharing her work. And keep an eye out for the webinar that we'll be doing on June 25th with Margaret about elementary principal professional learning. And our elementary principals, stay tuned for an invitation for that retreat coming this summer.
Yeah, that'll be wonderful. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Margaret.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.